Hello and welcome to another episode of the Revenue Revolution podcast sponsored by Jointflows. Exciting update before we get into the episode, which is that we will be raising around through Crowdcube. So watch this space. All details will be followed up on soon. So keep following us on LinkedIn to stay up to date. But today we're joined by Jacki Leahy. Hopefully I've said that correctly, who is the fractional RevOps advisor and founder of Activate the Magic. Hello, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me. And yes, you nailed my name pronunciation. Excellent work.
Always a good start. Always a good start.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show. Very excited to have you here. It's obviously the first time I've met you. I know Mick has had a couple of conversations with you previously as well, and he speaks very highly of you. So very excited to see how this episode turns out. No pressure. As a starting point, we always like to warm the audience up by by yourself introducing yourself and bringing us up to speed on who you are and how you've got to where you have got to.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jacki Leahy. I live in Boston. I have a miniature dachshund named Freddie. He fancies himself the mayor. So I'm actually a former kindergarten teacher and real estate agent. I pivoted to tech in 2016, got to start out as a VDR at the tender age of 33. Ended up absolutely falling in love with outbound and became an accidental admin. My third startup was Link Squares. I joined at 350K ARR. I was hire number 10, first lady. And in 2 years, we went to 9 million without a single marketing hire. And so I owe that to outbound operations. And in that journey, I just completely fell in love with what I like to call the HVAC and plumbing behind go-to-market teams. So since 2020, I've been on the consulting side, and I started my own shop almost 2 years ago.
Lovely. Amazing. So I guess a good starting point whenever I speak to people who are similar to yourself, who may work across multiple companies and have this kind of exposure that not necessarily anybody has, or not necessarily everybody has, should I say, in your kind of capacity where and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're heading up the RevOps side of the business and you're putting together, how things should take place and how things should happen. What are you seeing as big changes that have occurred in the last, I don't know, 12 months, even as change is rapid, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months?
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing I think really is email deliverability, and how the tightening up of those spam filters is really having huge impact on how, as B2B SaaS, we go to market, right? So at Link Squares, I owe my career to outreach and cold outbound messaging. Could I do that again in 2024? Probably not, right? Yeah. So there's I am in a constant state of confuddled when it comes to like domain warm-ups and whatnot. But so there's a lot of just a big question mark about where we're going and how we're doing it. The impact that, of course, AI, but more specifically, the no code business automation, operational tools, and what's happening there. Tools like Clay are super impressive, and Apollo. And oh my gosh, I have a crush on Make. If only it had all the things that Zapier has. Just so many huge, probably 3 or 4 years worth of shifts are happening sort of every month. So I, for one, have just completely dropped any sort of pretense that I know what's going on or what I'm doing. And I'm just running head first into, hey, what are we doing? How are we doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. We're finding that you have to be willing to adapt. You have to be willing to be agile in your way of working. I know for me personally, 1 week I think something's working, and then a couple of weeks later, Mick's on my case and saying this ain't working. Like, what you doing? It's like, yeah, fair. Let's go back to the drawing board. So that level of agility is extremely important at the moment.
Yeah.
Jacki, there's a big buzz around AI, SDRs, and all of this. Like you mentioned Clay, and you mentioned email deliverability as well. and I'm a former outreach, so like that we cross on a few topics here. But what's your take on it? Like, where is this going? Is it a bubble? Is it sustainable? What's happening?
I think it's here to stay. For a couple years now, I've been saying, too much chagrin, that our concept, like our B2B SaaS concept of what a BDR is going the way of the dodo, and it's just happening quicker and quicker. First of all, unless you have an average deal size of over, like, I'm going to say 60 to 90K average contract value, a two-step sales process just like economically does not make sense. And pre 2022 in the growth at any cost mindset, sure. But now that we've really shifted into sustainable growth, and I don't know what's a margin, it really just doesn't make sense. And then to compile that with, hey, you can rail against, oh, the bots aren't human all you want, but especially with tools like Clay being able to almost like be an aggregate marketplace for data and sort of like reverse engineering back into like really smart, crispy, on point messaging, like you can, using Clay, you can scrape LinkedIn to find out like who the new hires are at a company, send that to OpenAI and come back with like a really crispy 5 to 8 word personalized message. Like I'm sorry, like, but that's amazing.
Yeah. It is that, so I've got my own personal take on AI SDRing, but is there not a risk for, because everything is automation and everything is kind of coming from the same AI eventually, like, which is ChatGPT, and a little bit of data, which is not much on LinkedIn. Are we not going into a risk where everybody's doing the exact same personalization even more easily at scale and even more faster as well?
Two things. First, that's why you really got to stay on the cutting edge of things.
Yeah.
Like things that were cutting edge 2 months ago are old news.
Yeah.
So, but that's not to say it won't work for like a persona that's a little bit behind the times. Like back in the day, I was outbounding to legal and finance. They hadn't seen prospecting. They're like, oh my gosh, I just saw an email from you, and then we're on LinkedIn and talking to you on the phone now. What a cool thing. Right. So that's the first thing. Yeah, and definitely be in the know, like follow the people who are obsessed with this stuff. I'm actually doing a witching hour later this month on scaling outbound in 2024 with a Clay creator, Michael Sangioni. I'll put the link later. He's obsessed with this stuff. So every day he's coming up with new ways to backpedal into cool ways, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is think about who is paying for financing how AI goes. It's the people who can directly profit off of being able to do it, to do BDRing.
Yeah.
Right? So of course it's got, yeah. I put that I'll put on that horse that LinkedIn cares enough.
Yeah, that's true.
Enough.
Yeah, but what about, because you mentioned something very important, which is the innovation cycle. So
Yeah.
when I was using outreach, when I was in a company called Yieldify, I joined in from a company who was not using outreach, and using outreach versus not using outreach, it was a miracle. Like, how do these people keep on booking this many meetings this regularly without any drop in performance? And then I fell in love with it, and I was like, wow, well, just put outreach there, and then outreach just gives you the pipeline. And that innovation circle moved from 1 year to 6 months to 3 months. And now it feels like if you've not discovered a new clay every other week, like to your point, I think you're being caught up, and then your competition is doing the exact same use case as you. So you go into that next innovation circle. How fast can you go? How can we keep up with such a fast innovation cycle?
I don't know, but pretty soon we'll just be able to ask ChatGPT and it'll tell us.
Yeah, I guess
my faith in all my faith in Sam Altman, I guess.
Yeah, I'm using ChatGPT for everything. So
yeah,
you know, personal and professionally, ChatGPT's got a steer on my life now. I mean, when we're thinking, you know, we spoke a lot about the top of the funnel. So what does the optimal top of the funnel motion look like? I guess more generically outside of specific tool sets and so forth.
Yeah, I think now more than ever is to be just crispy clear on who your ICP is and your target persona is. And I think in a world of like everything could be automated, what I think step one is to become humanly empathetic and like almost like wearing your persona's skins as a skin suit, like fully understanding their point of view. Things tend to click into place when I fully understand not just the pains of the prospects every day, but also the language they use to talk about it.
Yeah, and then I guess you tailor that message in based on whether it's above the line, below the line, and so forth as well. What are some of the good ways in which you go about understanding what initiatives these personas are focusing on, what's important to them? Where's your go-to?
LinkedIn, TikTok, depending on the persona, like Reddit or Discord channels, Slack communities, conferences, and again, I want to emphasize it's not just coming up with the copy that slaps, but truly the solutions that you're like thinking of. Basically solve all the problems that your persona has that would lead them to the problem that you solve. And that takes a really thorough understanding. Like that is some superhuman, like not superhuman, but like extraordinarily human stuff. I'm frozen. 1 second. So yeah, like user interviews, validation, like idea validation, that is. It's really tempting to come up with a good idea and like run with it and want to work on it and make it awesome before you bring it to the world. But having the discipline to actually validate that idea when it's pretty ugly, with a couple LinkedIn DMs, like, hey, this any good? If yet, oh yeah, would you use it? Yeah. Would you pay for it? How much?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know you've obviously, and I touched on it at the beginning, you work across, you know, you're exposed to more companies than most. Usually, what have you been brought in to solve? Like if you had to group it in 2 or 3 different priorities, what are you brought in to solve? Like what's the focus area from a RevOps perspective at the moment for the businesses that you're seeing?
Yeah. So 9 times out of 10, the clients that we serve are sort of operationally immature for either their stage or their revenue. So it's almost like they're selling despite themselves. And it's a little bit of wrangling chaos and I mean, they have a sales process. They just might not be aware of what they're doing. So it's about kind of corralling what they're doing into a process that can be followed and maybe repeated. That's a huge one. The other one is, you know, under stress, and there's economic headwinds right now. There's a lot of stress. Under stress are neocortex. That's the front part of, like, right, the forehead. That's where all of your like reasoning and logic happens. The blood is taken from there and goes to your brainstem. And so it's sort of like the fight or flight, or like hunker down, and like everyone's the enemy. And what I'm seeing is a lot of just like close fists about people's teams. And so like KPI fiefdoms, like vanity KPIs, using whoever's admitting Salesforce as like a pawn in your power games is huge. And what I see a lot is leaders really holding on tight to their spreadsheets, right? Like, this is my universe. I will have my arms around it. And that works until it doesn't. And it's usually pretty fast when a sales leader actually can't rattle off all the deals from the top of their head, or refer to like a spreadsheet when they're like, oh no, we need technology.
The system. Yeah. You said something before we hit the record button around it's not what's popular or something, it's about what's what was it?
Oh, goodbye ideal, hello adequate.
Yeah. And I guess that's very, like, we aim to operate in this way. Like, it's not about ideally we would like to do that. It's about where we are, what we can afford to do, the resource we've got available to then incrementally get to that next level. And then it's a little bit like a house count, and hopefully it's a stable one, but we'll get to find out soon, I guess. But like, how do you shift your mindset from, yeah, let's copy these big guys' workflows and structures and operating rhythms, to let's see what we need, and then tailor what we put on top of that?
Can you rephrase that?
How do you shift from, how do you
Don't
move
worry,
from,
you're not alone. There's a lot of the time I work with him every day, and sometimes I'm
It's
like,
bully Mick.
what?
how does your mindset shifts from ideal to adequate? Like, how do you move there?
Oh, okay. How do I move there? Well, I think it's a huge like, who amongst us doesn't love perfection? You know, like, I'm a perfectionist and control enthusiast. And so it's a constant reminder to myself to crawl, walk, run. And here, the thing about ideal is it's slow, right? By the time we've done all of the business requirements and epic design and build and roll it out, well, we're talking about the innovation cycles. It's a completely different sales team, sales environment than when we started, especially in earlier stage. So you really want to get it, you know, I'm not talking about late B, C plus. I'm not talking about that. I have no business talking about that, but especially when it's earlier stage, let's get adequate up and running and actually step back and see what's the newest, largest point of constraint. So instead of wasting time, like iterating on something that's good enough, right? Let's move to actually what the problem is. And
is there a structure to identify that, where the problem is to start with?
yeah, I totally recommend revenue growth architecture. It's a course, and it's a book by Jacki of Winning by Design, where you take a look at the revenue engine as a system that you can engineer, right? And he calls it the bow tie. So if you visualize the sales funnel, flip it on the side, and then mirror reflect it. So after the close one, your use, adopt, expand, like really growing that impact and growing your revenue. After the first triple, your biggest growth levers end up being on the right side of the bow tie, right? Upsells, renewals, expansions. Even though as a B2B SaaS people, we just are hooked on the crack that is new logo acquisition.
Yeah. So that change is happening right now. I think everybody's starting to realize customer success is under-resourced, under-equipped, and they're responsible.
Well, I'll believe that when the budget dollars get allocated, Mick.
Yeah, Mick.
I'm not. Like, we've got a land and expand model, and we've got 4x AR acceleration on the expansion side.
Let's not let go of all of our secrets, Mick.
Yeah. We do struggle to find the right technology to help assist with expansions and upsell and white space mapping into an account. It's because it's so specific, and because the platforms you've got available in the market are so big, like Gainsight, I have to remortgage the house to buy a license. Sorry.
Now you're getting me heated. You're getting me heated.
I can't help you anymore. I'm the Grinch. Where do you start? Like, how do you put the first brick into that foundation? Like, okay.
How about a responsible founder?
What's that?
A responsible founder and a board that can rein in the ego of a CEO.
Yeah.
Humility. Oh my gosh. There's just something that goes straight to the veins about new logo acquisition. And the CRO and the CEO go play poker somewhere, and what do you know? Any budget that was a twinkle in customer success's eye now is straight towards closed one city.
But do you think this comes off the back of insecurity of not knowing how to position your product and get it adopted and get it expanded? So the fallback is always to go find someone more naive with less experience you can sell to.
Yeah. Okay, Mick, I just had a brain aneurysm. I am now relating the lack of budget for customer success to the male loneliness epidemic.
Okay. Do tell us, please.
Go on, Jacki. I'm here. I'm listening.
Here's your... You heard it here first.
All the lonely males out there. It's time to pay attention.
Hugged and told them their value is beyond performance and status. So now they grow up into being CEOs and controlling companies by basically wearing big medallions around their neck, and that's like new logos.
Yeah.
I think the more women in the boardroom, more women in the C-suite, more feminine brilliance at the top, more agility around leadership and human dynamics and respect for different communication styles and leadership styles will make us better as an industry.
I agree.
So Fox rant concluded.
I have two follow-up questions. One is, if we take a step back, we all agree, at least in this room or in this virtual room, that in order to acquire more revenue, it's really important that the ability to renew business and expand that business is the path of least resistance, as long as you're delivering appropriately and serving these customers properly. So we all aligned with this. So the question on this part, and I always go back to frameworks, is what is the framework to be able to do this, to first ensure that you've got the repeatable business, so year on year, but also you're set up in such a way that you understand where to focus, which accounts to focus on from an expansion perspective, and then what mechanisms do you put in place to activate that? And then and then actually I'll give you my second question after you answer this question.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I am a goldfish sometimes. Okay, so bold new idea. Why don't we apply account scoring that we use to identify who we need to outbound to post acquisition, right? Like let's make a list of our top, like Pareto principle, right? 80-20. 20% of your customers are going to make 80% of your revenue.
Mhm.
And so let's take a look at that top 20%. Let's run a statistical regression on all sorts of attributes. Let's find the spiky z-scores. And so a z-score is not what those 20% clients have in common, but what's weird about what they have in common like in relation to the universe of accounts. So at Link Squares, we found that for some reason, all of our customers were using Elasticsearch on their websites. What? I didn't even know what. I had to look it up. I don't need to know why, but I can reverse engineer a bespoke account scoring system that will take all these like weird z-scores into account and then build that system and then score the universe. And then now you're not just looking for, a needle in a haystack, they're a fit, but like the best needle, the 20% premium needle in a haystack full of needles. So let's do that with our clients, and let's stop swiping, right? And start loving the one we're with. Like the 20% of clients that are like, that's why you exist. Right? Like let's rip off the Band-Aid. Let's get vulnerable. Let's open up to feedback. Like, no, I really please don't gas me up. I want to hear what sucks. I want to hear what we're doing well, of course. I want to hear what we need to double down on. I want to hear why you might leave me.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in that as well, actually. It allows you to get ahead of it.
Easier said than done. Am I having that conversation with all of my clients? Not yet. It's hard. I don't like to cry.
Yeah, fair enough. And then I guess the second question and follow up to what we were discussing earlier was around women in I guess position of power, more on the board and so forth. How do we get to this position? Like how do we increase the percentage of women who are in this position? Because I fully recognize that it isn't probably anywhere near where it should be. So the first, I guess, is two-part. One is, why do you think this is the case? And then two is, how do we then remedy that?
And something I just want to call out, not call you out, but just to kind of giggle and notice, is that you said empower, like women in power. I replay the tape. I don't think I used the word power once. Okay. And it's not, it's neutral, right? It's not wrong or right, but I do think it's a point of view. And I do think men tend to think of things in power, authority, and in general, women are integrators. We're seeing the connections across, we see a whole vast array of data and we're making the connections. We're stepping back and taking into account of what's the pattern? Where's this going? What's the grandest version of the biggest vision? of the humans in this company, the humans who are using our company, the company itself, you know, and why? It's the patriarchy, dummy.
You did mention having more female at board level, and I think that's where Hits is coming from. Is more about the hierarchy of decision within a business.
Yeah.
Like the question is how do we create an environment where it's, I don't know, 50-50, 60-40, but way more balanced than it is today? Because I do agree with you. Our team is 100% male. Not that we're selecting male and by default, but like that's who we could find when we needed to find people, that's who we had access to. And we've been calling for more diversity, and we just can't find it.
Why aren't women attracted to the opportunity at your company?
Why aren't they?
Yeah. And that's not for me to answer, right?
Yeah. But it's the same with the podcast. You know, we had a conversation about podcast attendance, where 90% of our guests are male speakers, and we are trying day in, day out to get to 50-50. We just can't find enough women to come and hold the mic. Like, we are delighted to have you here because we want to make sure that this is a problem that is spoken about and acknowledged by male as well as female. But it seems to be the pool of women is by default smaller, so proportionally, you're kind of
so it's a spiral.
It's
right?
a vicious circle, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we break
fewer
it?
women enter, so fewer women are making it to the next like iteration, right? Yeah. Absolutely. And you know, I want to say it takes something to actively recruit women and minorities, and even just diversity of backgrounds, right? So just some ideas off the dome. You know who makes a great hire? Are career switchers, especially teachers.
Yeah.
Burnt out teachers.
Yeah.
Actually, you had this journey. You said you did kindergarten, then teaching as well, and then
speak
you
of
had
what I
somebody
know.
else, and then you went
I
into
speak of what I
DevOps, right?
know.
Yeah, pedagogically, and I use the word all the time, is the art of teaching and the art of understanding where and how people learn is unique in a business. And you do, like, it can be academic teaching, or it could be sports teaching. Like, sports coach are really good at that, and sometimes they're a little bit less good at other areas of the business, but so are academic teachers. But I do agree that at leadership level, when you're responsible for a team, the number one skill you should be looking for is your ability to teach and create coaching frameworks.
I'll expand on that. Of course, my understanding of, like, I have a master's degree in curriculum development instruction with a focus on applied brain research for like learning. Of course, serves me every day. What I'll add to that I think a lot of people don't realize is the amount of operational excellence that is absolutely required to run a classroom.
Yeah.
Systems on systems on systems. How do you make BDRs adopt the CRM? Well, how do you teach a 5-year-old how to blow their nose?
Got to build a playbook for both.
Well, I'll tell you what my hack was for teaching kids how to tie their shoes. Identify the kids who already can and put them in charge of making sure everyone else knows how to tie their shoes.
Yeah. That worked, yeah?
Yeah.
Mick's going to put his eldest son in charge of his youngest son now.
Yeah, it's not not there yet, but I agree. Like, I think it's
outsource.
Yeah, it's a very. Do you feel like this should be a part of, like, the how do you say, the training framework you give your employees? Like, how do you learn? How do you teach to learn?
Yeah. Oh, I would. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you see many
Huge.
companies doing it?
Can you say that again?
Do you see many companies doing this?
Well, I think we talked about the innovation cycles happening much faster. I do see just a global shift happening, both with like feminine brilliance, of course, and also just in the grander scheme, we're no longer willing to go along with the emperor wearing new clothes. You know, thanks to things like Snapchat, we can actually click on a map and see what is actually happening in Gaza.
Yeah.
We don't have to, we no longer are held hostage, you know, by the party line. And more peers are connected, and together we grow, together we cultivate humanity, right? And there's change coming, there's shifts coming, and it's really exciting.
Absolutely.
And with that, respecting how brains learn and how humans learn. And oh goodness, what do you mean if I don't yell at my people, they might feel safe and valued and actually perform better? So, right, like all of this is encompassed in this shift.
Absolutely. Awesome, Jacki. We are just about out of time. It is flowing by. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
joining.
Fun times, gentlemen.
We do, however, have a wrap-up question. So there's one more question for you.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to your answer because you've had so many different experiences in your career to date. But the question we ask all of our guests is, through your whole career to date, what is your favorite memory and why? And that can be all the way back to kindergarten as well. It's entirely up to you.
At Link Squares when we hit 1 million ARR.
Nice.
Right.
What happened then?
We all got a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses with company colors, and on the side it said dos comos, 2 commas. And it was really, I mean, from hire number 10, I think we're about like 70 or 80 at that point. It was like, whoa, like the real visceral experience of, you know, 0 to 1, something out of nothing.
Yeah.
That must be, that's what we're trying to get to, is like, I can see it. You can see it in your head. It's just like, oh wow, this is a milestone.
Absolutely.
And this was not granted. It was like you sweated for it, you bled for it. Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Mick, let's get the Ray-Bans ready.
Yeah.
Amazing,
Jacki, it's
Jacki.
been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. This has been the Revenue Revolution podcast. Until next time. Oh, and do check out keep track and follow our journey with CrowdCube as well. Follow us on LinkedIn and you'll be kept up to date. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.